Imagine stepping out of your front door into a really bustling, noisy city.
Right? Just immediate sensory overload.
Exactly. And before you even reach the end of the block, you feel this familiar, almost physical weight pressing down on your chest.
Yeah, that heavy feeling.
It's the weight of unfulfilled goals, just wrapped in this lingering fog of anxiety and self-doubt. And your own inner voice is quietly insisting that you are never going to escape this loop.
That you're just stuck that way.
Right, that your reactions and your stress levels are permanently hardwired. But then you stumble upon a highly practical reality. Your brain is not a fixed, rigid machine.
It's actually incredibly malleable.
It is. It's constantly waiting for new instructions, like wet clay. Fast forward a few months, and because of some very targeted daily practices, you're navigating that exact same noisy city, but you are thriving.
You're walking differently.
You really are. Your career aligns with your goals, you are building genuine connections, and your baseline state is just this quiet, unshakable peace.
It is a profound shift. And what's so compelling about the research we are looking at today is how it bridges the gap between what sounds like, an abstract ideal and very concrete, measurable neurology.
Welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to unpack a fascinating source called Unlocking the Power Within, rewiring your subconscious for positivity, manifestation, and peace.
It's a great piece of work.
It really is, and we are completely stripping away the woo-woo today. We're looking strictly at the hard science, the global data, and the actionable daily rituals that make this structural brain change possible.
Because it is possible.
Exactly. The goal is to give you a shortcut to understanding how you can literally rewrite your brain's default settings without feeling overwhelmed by information. And to help guide us through this, I've brought in our resident expert to cut through the noise.
It's great to be here. And the core thesis we need to keep in mind today is actually quite grounded. Training your subconscious isn't about slapping on a fake smile
or forcing that toxic positivity stuff.
Right, exactly. It has nothing to do with toxic positivity.
Mm-hmm.
It is entirely about providing your brain with deliberate, consistent inputs that gradually overwrite the outdated survival scripts we all carry around.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we already know the basics of neuroplasticity, right? The idea that the brain can change. But the source material frames this around the 95% rule.
Which is such a crucial concept.
Yeah, the idea that your subconscious is essentially an autopilot system. And it is running 95% of your daily thoughts, your habits, your reactions.
Unseen in the background.
Completely. And often it's running on entirely outdated programming. Stuff written by childhood traumas or just compounding societal pressures.
Which perfectly explains why making a conscious choice to change your life feels so incredibly exhausting for most people.
You're fighting your own hardware.
Exactly. If you're only consciously aware of 5% of your output, you are swimming against a massive unseen current. But this is where the mechanics of the brain become really empowering.
Because we can alter that current.
Yes. We're looking at the why and the how behind that. When you introduce consistent positive affirmations, you aren't just whispering sweet nothings to yourself.
It's not just a mood ring kind of thing.
No, you are chemically altering your state. You're activating the brain's reward centers, which boosts serotonin.
Our primary feel-good neurotransmitter.
Right. And simultaneously, you're reducing cortisol.
That's stress hormone.
Exactly. The one responsible for keeping you in that constant state of fight or flight.
So we aren't just talking about a temporary mood boost here. You're saying the physical hardware of the brain is actually changing shape.
It literally changes shape. Take mindfulness practices, for instance. When you engage in them regularly, you are essentially weightlifting for your prefrontal cortex.
The logic center.
Right. The area responsible for higher-level thinking, focus, and emotional regulation. As that area physically strengthens and thickens, a reciprocal action happens deeper in the brain. Your amygdala actually shrinks.
And the amygdala is the fear center, right? The part constantly scanning the horizon for threats.
Correct. So by changing the physical structure of your brain, you are directly easing the mechanical triggers for anxiety and depression. It's a biological shift, not just a psychological one.
That structural shift really sets the stage for a concept that neuroscientist James Doty calls mind magic, which I found absolutely fascinating.
Doty's theory really grounds what people often vaguely refer to as manifestation.
Yeah, it takes the mystical element right out of it.
It does. His premise is that when you pair a vivid visualization of a specific goal with a strong positive emotion, You are fundamentally redirecting your brain's attention network.
You're giving your subconscious a new target.
Precisely. You're giving it a very clear directive saying, this is the new priority. And because your subconscious controls 95% of your actions, it immediately starts aligning your micro habits.
The little things you don't even notice you're doing.
Right. You're noticing of opportunities, your daily choices, they all start pulling toward that goal.
So it takes an abstract desire and turns it into an engineered outcome. It's like updating the software on your internal GPS with a highly specific destination.
That's a great way to put it.
And there's a UCLA study on self-directed neuroplasticity that backs up just how fast this update can happen.
The timeline on that study is amazing.
It really is. They found that combining mindfulness with cognitive reframing, which we'll get into the actual how-to shortly, it significantly reduced troubling mental patterns in just 4 weeks.
Only a month.
Just a month to fundamentally alter your baseline. But I want to acknowledge that you might be listening to this right now and thinking, okay, neuroplasticity makes sense, but I am still highly skeptical of manifestation or this idea of cosmic attraction.
And that skepticism is completely valid.
Yeah.
The research actually embraces it.
Yeah, it doesn't ask you to just blindly believe.
Exactly. While the idea of some mystical cosmic attraction lacks direct empirical proof, the underlying psychology of manifestation is rock solid.
The outcomes are undeniable.
The data clearly shows that people who utilize these visualization techniques report significantly higher motivation and resilience. They experience a 20 to 30% better goal achievement rate.
Which is a huge jump.
It is. And they achieve more because they are taking highly focused, directed action. They're scanning their environment for solutions, not because the universe magically dropped a promotion in their lap.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we can actually see this playing out on a massive scale. We aren't just talking about individual psychology anymore. We are looking at a global transformation.
The statistics on how widely these practices are impacting public health are staggering.
They really challenge the assumption that mental well-being is purely dictated by external circumstances.
Entirely.
Look at the sheer scale of the 2023 World Health Organization report. They found that introducing mindfulness-based interventions, or MBIs, cut global depression rates by up to 25% across more than 50 countries.
Including massive gains in really high-stress urban areas in Asia and Latin America.
Yes. And a meta-analysis involving over 1,200 women in Europe and North America showed 35% lower anxiety, 28% reduced depression, and significantly higher happiness scores.
And the crucial detail in that meta-analysis was that these positive effects were measurably amplified when mindfulness was actively paired with positive affirmations.
It's the combination that does the heavy lifting.
Exactly. And even looking at the manifestation side by the numbers, there was a massive 2024 survey of 10,000 people across the U.S., the UK, India, and Australia.
A really broad demographic.
Very broad. And they found that 62% of regular visualizers reported real career advancements, compared to just 38% of non-practicers.
Let's do a rapid-fire look at some of these cultural proof points, because it proves this transcends borders. Like the India study in Nature, digital MBIs caused a 40% drop in stress-related illnesses.
Or look at post-conflict Africa. Community-positive psychology programs there boosted life satisfaction by a staggering 50%.
Which is incredible given the baseline trauma there. And in Brazil, just 5 minutes of positive affirmations a day reduced self-doubt in 70% of workplace programs.
Over in the UK, similar trials showed that just 10 minutes of daily mindfulness fights depression, showing a 22% improvement rate.
And in the US, athletes dedicating just 7 minutes a day to visualization boosted their goal attainment by 55%.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the synthesis of all this data is incredibly clear. Nations and organizations that are actively investing in subconscious training are reporting 15 to 20% higher overall well-being.
It shifts the entire cultural baseline.
Right. A peaceful, regulated life isn't a rare luxury reserved for a lucky few who just happen to have low-stress jobs. It is a trainable global norm.
A trainable global norm. I love the empowerment in that phrase. But nothing drives home this kind of macro data quite like raw human triumph. We need to look at what this actually looks like in practice.
Bringing it down to earth.
Exactly. Take the story of a young woman named Pixie who shared her experience on X. In early 2026, she hit an absolute rock bottom. She was dealing with terrifying, spiraling fears of
The
instability.
kind of fear that usually triggers total paralysis.
Yes, but instead of letting that 95% autopilot drag her under into a panic state, she actively affirmed that she was safe and she rigorously visualized a secure living situation.
She interrupted the fear loop.
She did, and just days later, through a series of redirected actions and noticing new opportunities, she landed a rent-free apartment with all her utilities covered.
It's a striking example of shifting from a state of total panic to a state of receptivity.
And there's another documented case from a practitioner named Jez.
Oh, the client with the high blood pressure.
Right. This client was teetering on the edge of homelessness. Her blood pressure was soaring, and the sheer financial stress had deeply eroded her relationship.
A total systemic collapse.
But by actively rewiring her subconscious through these specific techniques, the turnaround was incredible. Her health normalized entirely without medication. She landed her dream job, and the relationship stress healed.
It highlights how deeply interconnected our physical health, our external circumstances, and our relationships are to that underlying mental wiring.
It's all connected. And for anyone listening who thinks this only applies to certain, maybe more spiritually inclined personality types, there's the story from neuroscientist Tara Swart,
Yes, she worked with a high-level Cambridge executive.
who was completely burned out
Yeah.
and highly skeptical.
Incredibly resistant to the whole idea. But this executive agreed to commit to nightly visualizations, specifically to manifest a much-needed sabbatical.
And the timeline on this was pretty fast, right?
Just 6 months.
Yeah.
In 6 months, not only did they get the rest they desperately needed, but they also secured a book deal and renewed their family bonds.
Yeah.
Swart noted that the executive's negative self-talk was the actual block. Once that neural pathway was rewired, the flow of their professional and personal life completely changed.
We even see this applied to high-stakes business pressure. There's the story of an Indian yogi-turned-entrepreneur who found herself in the middle of the pandemic chaos.
Arguably the hardest time to start a business.
Literally the hardest time. But through a rigorous practice of daily gratitude, she maintained the focus to manifest a startup, eventually scaling it to employ 50 women.
She turned her own anxious mind into a foundation for an entire community.
So what does this all mean? Well, one practitioner in the source material summed it up beautifully. They said that these practices changed their toxic job and relationship to their dreams simply because storytelling is the key.
The story you tell yourself.
Exactly. It is the story you are continuously telling your own subconscious.
What's fascinating here is that we don't just have to rely on inspiring stories. The source provides a highly practical, actionable roadmap.
The mindset menu.
Right. And the most important advice for anyone listening is that consistency completely beats perfection. You don't have to overhaul your entire life tomorrow.
Just pick a few things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the brain is most receptive to rewiring during the transitions of the day, specifically right at bedtime or first thing in the morning when your brain waves are naturally shifting.
When you're in that groggy in-between state.
Yes. So the recommendation is to look at this mindset menu and pick just 3 practices to try consistently for 30 days.
Let's actually walk through this menu dynamically because this is where the theory becomes reality. There are 6 evidence-backed practices here. Practice number 1 is gratitude journaling.
A classic, but with a twist.
Right. It takes about 5 minutes. The instruction is to jot down 3 things before bed, but the crucial element is using sensory details.
That's the key.
So instead of writing, I'm grateful for my morning coffee, you write, I am grateful for the warmth of my coffee mug. Why does that sensory detail matter so much neurologically?
Because sensory details force your brain to actually relive the experience. When you just write coffee, it's abstract. When you write the warmth of the mug, your brain actively fires and reprograms your neural reward pathways.
It's tricking the brain into feeling it again.
Exactly. And the research notes that doing this specific type of sensory journaling increases optimism by 25% in just 21 days.
That's massive for 5 minutes of work.
It is. And there's a great pro tip here. Whisper those gratitude points aloud.
Oh, interesting. Why whisper?
Engaging your vocal cords and your auditory processing centers embeds the new wiring even deeper than just thinking it silently.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, practice number 2 is affirmation anchoring. This takes just 3 minutes. You repeat 5 personalized phrases.
Something like, I am worthy of peace and abundance.
Right. But the physical key here is doing it while touching your heart and syncing the words with your breath. Inhaling the positive thought, exhaling the doubt. Now, touching your heart sounds a bit out there. Does that physical element actually move the needle?
It absolutely does. It acts as a grounding mechanism. When you're anxious, you are usually trapped up in your racing thoughts, completely disconnected from your physical self.
Floating away in panic.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Physical touch, combined with intentional breathing, pulls your awareness back into your body. This specific combination interrupts the stress response and slashes negative self-talk by actively building new self-worth circuits in the brain.
Okay, practice number 3 is guided visualization. Takes about 7 minutes. You close your eyes and mentally script your ideal day, imagining it is happening right now in the present tense. How does this differ from just, daydreaming at your desk?
Daydreaming is passive. Guided visualization is active priming.
Priming the system.
Right. When you vividly imagine success in the present tense, your brain's reticular activating system begins scanning your actual environment for opportunities that match that vision.
So you start seeing things you were blind to before.
Exactly. It significantly enhances your daily focus and creates an environment where serendipity feels like it's naturally occurring simply because you are finally noticing the open doors.
Practice number 4 is the mindful breathing walk. This is a 10-minute practice. You step outside and sync your physical steps to your breath. Specifically, a count of 4 steps on the inhale and 6 steps on the exhale. What is the significance of that specific 4-to-6 ratio?
That longer exhale is a direct physiological trigger for your parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest mode.
Yes. BBC trials highlighted in the research show that this specific 4-to-6 ratio calms the nervous system immediately. And over a period of weeks, it actually rewires your baseline stress responses and provides measurable cognitive boosts.
It's essentially a moving meditation for people who just can't sit still on a cushion.
Which is a lot of people.
Very true. Okay, practice number 5 is the evening review ritual. Just 4 minutes right before sleep. You do a quick mental recap of your wins for the day, you actively forgive yourself for any slip-ups, and you set one positive intention for tomorrow. Why? Right before sleep.
This leverages a very specific biological function called the sleep consolidation phase.
What does that do?
During sleep, your brain is busy solidifying the neural connections you fired most prominently during the day. By ending your day on this note, you are ensuring that your brain is cementing positive, resilient wiring while you rest, rather than churning over anxieties and cementing stress patterns.
Which is what so many of us do when we lie awake worrying about an email.
Exactly. You're hijacking the consolidation phase for your benefit.
Finally, practice number 6 is the limiting belief flip. This takes maybe 2 minutes, and it's something you do in the moment.
A real-time intervention.
Right. When you catch a negative thought like, I'm never going to get this done, you immediately pause and flip it to something empowering, like I am learning to manage my time better. But cognitive reframing in the heat of a stressful moment is tough. How do we actually pull that off?
It takes practice to catch the thought, which is where the mindfulness foundation comes in. But once you catch it, flipping it is a profound tool for fostering resilience.
It's heavily backed by psychology today, right?
It is. You are essentially intercepting that old 95% autopilot right as it tries to take the wheel, and you are manually overriding the steering. Over time, the new flipped thought becomes the automatic one.
It is so empowering to realize how actionable this all is. To give you a final recap of our deep dive today, rewiring your subconscious isn't some distant, unattainable dream.
It's not magic.
No, it's a daily, highly practical choice. And as we've seen, it's backed heavily by neuroscience, massive global public health data, and the lived experiences of people transforming their realities all over the world.
It really is an invitation to take back control of your own hardware. So step into the rewrite starting tonight. Look at that mindset menu we just discussed.
Pick just 3.
Pick 1 or 2 even to start with. Breathe into it. Allow the old chaotic storm of your default programming to slowly fade into a steady, reliable sail.
You hold the pen, you write the script.
This raises an important question for you to consider as we wrap up today. If your brain has spent years or maybe even decades flawlessly executing an unconscious program that was designed to constantly expect the worst and keep you locked in a state of survival mode.
Doing its job perfectly, unfortunately.
Right. What kind of unimaginable compounding reality might you stumble into if you dedicate the next year to consciously engineering it to expect the absolute best?
That is a powerful thought to leave on. The clay is waiting. What's the first affirmation you'll whisper tonight?